see if you can get chat loaded. There we are. Hello, hello world. Let's see. Okay, good to go there. Off and running right out the gate. Love it. Okay. Give some time for some people here. Let's see who we get to join us in another exciting journey here. Hold on. There we go. Just starting out. Something I want to take care of real quick. Forgive my stuffiness. I've been a little bit sick the last couple days, so sorry if I have to sneeze or anything like that. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. There we go. All right. We are streaming. All right, let's get going here. Let me rearrange some stuff here for to make some more room. Bring my Cintiq down to my level. All right, I'm thinking I'm gonna just keep working on this guy. I gotta see him through. I gotta get him finished. So I need to have him finished by next month. So I figured I'm gonna keep working on this guy and just keep really refining him and get him to where I want before I start looking at getting into the finer details. I want to take a look at the shoulder. Yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to kind of fix this shoulder piece. Kind of what I'm thinking is I wanted to have a spherical shape here too, right? So the arm needs to have a little flexibility and movement. So I think the arms are too close. This is kind of why I like to work really quick with this way, just so I have the ability to give myself a little bit more flexibility. It's non-destructive, right? And I think I need to sell this spherical part of this for sure. And okay, that's in the right spot. So this is where some of my concerns starting to come that I'm gonna have to take a look at as well. So let's do a little control here now. Let's see what we got. We got this. Let's insert a cylinder. Let's move that cylinder up. I'm gonna call this one shoulder cut. In, all right. Okay, the geometry is good enough. We'll go here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to throw some dynamic subdivision on there. I definitely want to have, this is fine, I guess. Let's solve this out for now. Let's Z modeler, throw a little symmetry on here. Let's start an edge loop so we get a cleaner result in here. A lot better. Okay. Now what I want is this to move here. Okay, and so we'll turn symmetry off. I don't need that right now. And we can do this. Okay, so here's the thing. Doing this one way, obviously my mind immediately goes, okay, this makes sense, but now I'm doing a lot of this, where I'm trying to figure some things out, right? Here, I'll hide the arms for now. Right, so in essence, I want this cylindrical piece that I'm playing with now to line up with this cylinder piece back here, right? So it would be better for me, instead of doing what I'm doing where I appended and then added and all this, now that I think about it, to make my life easier, I'm going to delete this actually. I'm going to duplicate this now. So now I already have two versions. Now let's rename this shoulder cut. Okay, and then now I only need of these. I don't need all of this. Okay, so let's go into here. we'll turn just these. Are these all, is it welded? Oh, maybe it is. It looks like it is welded. Okay. So we will get rid of, I don't need this. Let's get rid of that. All right, so we'll modify our topology and then delete that hidden. I want to close this off, so I'm going to use the modeler. I'm going to go with close, and I'm going to go with convex hole, and then I'm going to do one line. Excuse me. And then just close it off. And the polygrouping, let's also just do a flat polygroup. I don't need the variation in polygroups. Like there, that's good enough. Right? And so now this is going to become my subtract. Okay, so in essence, this is going to dig into the surface, which means now this, we need to change the size of this a lot smaller. This is not going to work now. It's too big. And I'm going to turn local symmetry on with not dynamic. That way when I size, I want this ability, this sizing ability. Because what I want is I want this now to sit in that hole, right? So this negative part needs to affect this subtool and this subtool, right? So that's there and that's there, okay? So this needs to come further down the list so that we get that. It starts creating that hole. Okay, and where's this located? Okay, so we need to go even further in this folder. So let's put it all the way almost to the bottom of the list then. And there. And then that way, we're getting that instead now. Right? I want to cut into these surfaces here. And that's what I'd like to do with this. Then go back. And now we want this one. Right? This is the one that we want. But we don't want this to be affected by that boolean, right? So we're going to call this, I'm going to call this the shoulder joint. So I know. Perfect. Thanks, Lenny. Hey, for those that are watching, I'm here also to answer any questions that might pop up as we go on. So I'm going to want this to go below so that it is no longer doing that because I want this look, in essence. And the reason why I want that is I want this to obviously show that the arm just doesn't do a 360 degree like this. I need this kind of movement, right? Something like this, something like this, something like this. So obviously a sphere is the best thing to do that. So I want to put a sphere in here to sell that. We would be able to see that, okay, there's a sphere, so he would get, you know, ball and socket movement, of course, for us is what we want. So I'm going to stick with this. I also want to play with this a little bit. Let's take a look here. And, okay, that edge right there. Okay, I like that edge. So what I'm going to do now is here, I'll just turn this off. I'm going to crease this. So I'm going to do a complete creasing of this. Then I'm going to, here, we'll insert an edge right here, we'll say, and then we'll also crease that. So that's creased, okay? And now we have this look happening, right? Remember, I'm using this as a cutter, right? It's cutting into the surface, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to Q mesh this. We'll do a poly loop and do this, but I'll hold the shift key. And what I want is that right there, okay? And then now this I want to use now as a type of collision for all of it. So I am going to actually, to make it easier, I'm going to mask poly loop faces, and then we'll inverse that, right? I'll center it and start pushing this in, right? Through here again. So I want, and then inverse that, and I'll center it right on that too. There we go. We're working symmetrically. We got local on, and then now let's turn this off. And now let's just start moving this in there. This is what in essence, I want that. Right where my crosshair is, that's what I'm looking for. I want that just to add another nice little element to this where it's kind of sitting in. This is also helping me now really justify and look at what I'm doing with this plate, what I'm doing with this plate, right? The rest of it to me is fine right now, looking good. Okay, I'm all right with that. This is definitely going to need some change. So I think the right thing maybe for this is we'll have to look into. I think I'm going to want to clean that up a little bit more for sure. I think we're going to change the line of this a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and use some clipping curve just to give me a little bit more of a cleaner result there. Okay, let's go a little bit more. I'm going to go on an angle like this now. Right? Like it's also going to give the arm more room, I think, too, to make it understood that that's what we want to do. Okay. All right, that's good for that piece. I like that piece. Let's also take a look at this. Okay, from this view, this is what I want, but from here, we don't have. Okay, so I think the chest, we might play with this. What if we, just for giggles here, what if we got rid of that? What does that look like if we get rid of that? So this is that subtool. What if we get rid of that? Now we just have this. Let's turn the arms back on, which are down here in the bottom. And now it looks like this. Yeah, I really need, I kind of like that plate that I turned off, which is this plate, but I think I need to visit it again. I like that layer right there, and it kind of protects this. Okay, I think these can now sit in a little bit further. I think they're sticking out just a bit too much, which then the arm, right, which is, let's see, I've been playing with this and this, right, kind of a thing for the arm. So let's transpose set the arm. And I say we go a little bit, oh, let's put symmetry on. Local. Let's just, for the time being, let's just do the arms. Let's go more. I'm going to sit like that. Do I want to do a hole like this? And I think it could be interesting. But I started going away from that, right? Like, I started going away from that, just keeping it more solid like this. And this is kind of what I'm like, I want this freedom and flexibility. I don't know if I like that. I don't think I want to do an entire hole through there. I don't think I want that. I can definitely sell this though. Let's delete this for now. And I think what could be more interesting here, right? Let's just take this section. I'm going to delete the other side because I'm going to use some brushes. So I'm going to delete the other symmetry side. So we're only dealing with one arm because it's nothing to replicate over, right? And again, transparency. Let's look at stuff like this. And I think what I can do is, let's try for this and say, what if we did this and had something more like that as the piece of interest, right? And then now that's selling this all the way through, right? That we are, you can kind of tell that there is some kind of pivoting ability there. It creates this nice little lip right in there, and it's a perfect circle. I think I'm going to stick with that. Let me look at the silhouette. Let me move this more here because I want more silhouette. All right, and then I need to mirror. Well, I need to turn local off, mirror the well this over so I can really see what I'm doing here. Okay. All right, that's fine for me. Okay, now in here, I need a spherical shape. But I think what I'm going to do with this, I have an idea here, I think, again. Okay, so we have this right in here. I think it would be interesting if we did this sphere instead. And let's rotate it so it looks there. that direction. Let's make this be more flat. Do we want to go halfway? I think halfway would be interesting. Yeah, I guess let's try that and see what this looks like. And then now I'll size this up. Well, let's have symmetry on again with local symmetry. So we can size that up. And we want this spherical piece now to move forward. And where is it located right now? Okay, it needs to be bigger. So I'm going to go bigger, 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 bigger. All right, like this. And then now that is the piece, but I think I'm going to come all the way out here. Okay, so I guess my thought here is you can't really see the spherical part of this. I think I might need to sell that a little bit more, which means I might need to do a little bit more with this. So let's look at this. I'm going to say I definitely want to put a nice little bevel on here just to kind of make that be different. And then we'll crease that there, crease that there. I'm going to insert an edge loop right here. Oops. Let's do there. That way when we divide, I get something more like that. I think I want to sell, actually, now that I look at this, I do want to sell this a little bit more. All right, so this, let's add another one. Do we need to add another one? Or do we just need to, we could just make this be its own polygroup. Okay, yeah, and then we'll Q mesh that in. Polygroup all, push that in. And I want this to have a bevel as well. And then I'm definitely going to want these to be creased. I want that creased, I want that creased, I want that creased. And I want another inserted edge loop here so that we get something like that. Actually, it looks like it's sitting in something is what I'm looking for here. So then that way, again, I'm looking at that shoulder piece. This is going to be my main, like, allowing the arm to have this pivoting, right? And I can definitely see there's some, like this, you can't have too many collisions happening. There's pretty good space, relatively good space here. I think definitely this needs to get pushed back a little bit more. You know what? I think I was right into, I think have this come out even more, right? And then the arms, I think do need to come out just a bit more. Like they need to live more. That also is just going to give more freedom here for the arm to move. Okay, so the arm's what's selected. Okay, so I got there, that sphere shape is starting to be seen a little bit more. I want to do one more thing. I'm intrigued to see what would this look like. Let's snap right on that point. Just an experiment here. What if we went a little bit smaller with this? Right, and then this portion needs to come all the way out and meet the arm. Oh, what do you guys think? I think that's the way to go here, right? Okay, and then I'll reuse the sphere shape again here. He's not a food, he's going to be a samurai, is what he's going to be. So I'm doing like a mech samurai. The chess piece, how I made the chess piece? Sure, I can show how I made the chess piece. And then I see... let's see. Food service spot, no. I do freelance work, 3D modeling and sculpting. I usually live in the toy world. That's the world I prefer personally. I just kind of, that's what I like. Um, but I also help develop ZBrush. I've been helping develop ZBrush now for 18 going on 19 years. Okay, so that's where I'm at. So the chess piece, yeah, I can show you a quick kind of rundown how I got to that chess piece idea for sure. Let me just finish up this shoulder piece. I just want to finish up my thought process here of what I'm going to try and do with this for sure. Okay. I'm going to now duplicate this. Let's have one of them be above. And then I want to, with this, let's replace it with a sphere, polysphere, and we're going to make it subtractive. And then now we're getting a spherical shape in there that this would sit in, right? This, it needs to move around in there, right? To be in there. So we could go a little bit tighter in there. Something like that. And then that's helping it make sense of it sitting in there. I'll definitely do something inside, but that's down the road for sure for me. Okay, so now I think I'm getting, like for me, I think this makes sense. I have full movement of the shoulder, and then he has 360 degrees. So if he's like holding a sword, he can move his arm this way. He can lift his arm a little bit, right? Because it's on that spherical thing. But then because it's also, it's a lollipop almost in essence, right? So it has a cylinder. And then so the arm could technically go 360 degrees around, right? So this is probably stuff that isn't really necessary, but it's just me. I like to really think this stuff through a little bit more and make sure of what I'm doing here. Okay, and then obviously now in the arm here, we're gonna put, I am gonna put probably, if I was doing this right, put some kind of negative thing in there so it looks like it's also going into the arm, right? So what I would probably would do to do that, I will take this piece. Again, we would duplicate this, okay? So I'm gonna save it really quick, just where we're at, because I haven't saved since we started. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to bring this down now to the arm. Okay, then I'm going to call this arm/shoulder cut. We'll call this arm. We'll call, you know what? We're going to call this inner arm. Inner arm cut. Okay, so I have that. And really the only one I care about is this piece. I don't care about anything else per se, right? So once again, I don't need the rest of this. I only need these. That's it. I don't need this. I just need this. This is all I need. And so I am going to now delete hidden. I'm going to close this off again. So we'll go to close. I'm doing a convex, one line. Perfect. That's what I need. And then now this needs to get bigger. So again, symmetry locally. I'm going to switch that to a subtract. So, and we'll turn off polyframe. And now see, just creating that little in there, you can see how this would connect into the arm, like as if the arm pops off, right? And so the other thing that I want to do now here is kind of like I did previous. Excuse me, I've been sick lately, so excuse me. I'm going to have to sneeze and cough occasionally here and there. Hold on, Mike. Let me mute it real quick. Mute my microphone. Okay, I'm back now microphone wise. Let me take a drink. Okay, let me look at the questions that are coming through. All right, I'd like to know. I'm not using a mouse at all. I don't use a mouse in ZBrush. It's because it's pressure sensitive. It's a sculpting app. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq. I'm using the 36-inch with my pen, and then I got the keyboard. That's it. I don't use a mouse at all really in ZBrush. So, yeah, the toy, I do a lot of freelance stuff. Like, so I've done a lot of stuff for Disney, Hasbro. I've worked on a ton of IPs, some like Star Wars, Transformers, Toy Story, Moana, Disney princesses. I've done some G.I. Joe. I got a whole bunch of there's some stuff in here. I've done Jurassic World that I have actually here in my office that I've done. So I've been all over the spectrum with the toy world for sure. So I'm happy to help in any way I can for sure. Let's now crease this. We're going to crease that. So again, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do an insert, another edge loop here, which now I can tell it to crease at the same time and save myself some time. And once again, I want to come in here, do a poly loop, and then just have this grow out so it creates that ramp for me, because I want that ramp to start intersecting with the arm in essence, okay? So in essence, I want these faces right here, right? So if we do this, turn off the poly frame, and then zoom in here, we're looking at where my crosshair, that edge right there. That's the edge I'm most concerned about. Where'd it go? There you are. And I think I'm going to go bigger on this. And then I think I'm going to move this further apart. And then this also tighter and a little bit more like that. And then I want to make sure arm is selected, this is subtractive, and live boolean is on. So we can go to vision 2, see what that's doing. Let's turn it on. So what I'm looking for is that. Okay, so if I go back to V1, that just gives it an extra element of right in there. Like, is that necessary? No. It's just me being me, I think. In all honesty. I don't think it's necessary, honestly. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about this, see, my brain, I will get to the chest, but my brain now starts going off on tangents for this stuff now. Because I'm even thinking, it'd be cool, yeah, calling we do, maybe it would be cool. I'm seeing something here. We'll rip this off. We'll make another ring, change our poly grouping. Right, and I want to take this ring and push it so it meets the arm. Right, and I could go this route so that it's really selling this thought process a little bit more. Right, and then I can say, all right, let's take this ring. Let's do an insert, but let's do multiple edge loops this time. Okay, and I'm going to do something like that. Q mesh this out and give it that little bit of a ramp in there. And what I want to do is go the actual opposite direction with this, is what I want to do. So what I want to do is I want to pull this out for sure. But now I want this edge. What's in my you're going with what's in my head, so just go with it, everybody. Who knows what I'm thinking? And I'm thinking what I want to do here. You know what? I'm thinking something else here. What's going to give me my fastest way, that what I am actually thinking of? Okay, we're going to go this route, actually. We're going to go... This would be a better route to go. We're going to go do this. Make a new polygroup. Then we're going to do this, do a polygroup all, grow this out this way. Let's say that's enough. And then inside here, let's do an insert. Insert single polygon. Let's have it snap halfway through. So it snaps there. And I want the same thing there. Right, so I want it to snap there and there. and then get rid of this. Wait, I want to go the opposite direction. I want to now go Q mesh poly loop. I want to come out. You know what? Let's also not do a Q mesh. Let's do an extrude poly loop and do that, because I don't want any welding to happen, and then do that. And what I'm building here, okay, where's that sitting in space now? Okay, now I really want, now let's look at just this one. Let's mask this off, inverse our masks, and let's bring this way closer to the arm. Just really create some layering in here that it looks like there's a bunch of pieces that are making things happen. In there is what I'm thinking for this. I'm intrigued to just see how much. What if I bring this all the way? I kind of like that. Okay. So for me, there we go. I got some kind of, you can tell it's being connected in. There's a continuing storyline here for us. Okay. All right, let me save it and then get to the chest and how I did the chest so you guys can kind of see that. I have my Cintiq on an arm. I hands down prefer it being on an arm. You could also stand and draw too, right? On an arm, so that's great. My PC, I'm not on a PC, I'm on a Mac. I'm on a Mac Studio, actually. It's not super robust, but here's what it is. It's pretty robust. It's an M1 Ultra with 128 gigs of RAM. That's what I'm on. So you guys can see it, right? That's what I'm on right now. All right, so the chess piece part is actually quite simple. It's not too crazy. Let's take this guy. So I started with this, so let's just clone him. So we're looking at just him. All right, so this, again, this is the process for me for hard surface. It's kind of, I like to do it kind of in some stages. It's not, you can't dive immediately into hard surface clean perfection. You're going to get stuck in a bad location, in a bad spot, right? So for me, I want to use this brush, which is my H polish brush, okay, which is going to allow me to kind of harden things up. But, sorry, excuse me. That's me, sorry. I want to build up some surface first. So I kind of want, okay, so I want a chest plate to start coming off his chest. So I would want, and then this is kind of my experimenting thought process here, right? I'm going to say, okay, do I want this, and then it blends in through here, right? And then this, okay, so now I decide, do I want to maybe make the chest plate dig in here, right? So it has like kind of that happening at the top. Do I want to now create a chest plate that's kind of more like, start giving me more of a line of interest there and a line of interest there, right? So it's really quick, right? And then I can switch to H polish, right? And then this is where I would definitely start using Dyna sketching. So I would say, let's Dynamesh this. And so now I use this brush, right, to start really refining where I want certain lines to live on this, right? So you're seeing this, it's got a line there. I kind of now, accidentally, I kind of like that. I want to live in that line now and do that. Okay, there, this is giving, and then now I want this to kind of continue to get flat, comes around the bend. And then I also want another informational line right here, another very defining edge there. Okay, and then now here, do I want this? And then come across, right? Again, staying very freeing, more sculptural. I don't consume myself right away with clean topology. And again, if you hold the Alt key while you're using this brush, it's flattening, but it's also raising the surface. Okay, so I'm gonna say something like this. And then I can say, okay, do I want now another angle change here? Like what is it I'm going for? Right? This is where I'm kind of making decisions in this light. Right? I'm not trying to make it with topology. I'm more doing sculptural decisions and looking at the piece and seeing if this is what I want or this is not what I want. And I'm going to raise this surface up even more. Right? I want, yeah, have a little bit more raised. Like this, and then a Redynamesh. Okay, so now, I would say a little bit, especially working in here, I want to get a little bit more topology. So I'm going to up this. Let's just go to 400. Let's get some more topology in there. So now I'm at 2 million across the whole thing. And this might be a time where you actually cut this off, right? You don't really need the whole body. You just, the part you're working on, realistically. I kind of keep it together because in how I did this guy, I had everything flowing together with this mindset, okay? And then I say I like to use stuff like the pinch brush again, and then I just, because I wanted more topology, because then the pinch brush has more topology to play with, and you can see how clean I can start to make the lines on this, right? I really want that to be a little more clean there, there. Do I want that line like that? And this is why I like working this way, because I'm not committed to topology right now. I'm committed to design is what I'm committed to. And I'm taking a good hard look at my design and seeing, is this what I want? You can hold the Alt key, right? And then it'll tighten up that point of interest where it's going to meet the body per se, right? And so I can really do this. This is why I also love having a Cintiq, because I can draw right in the location that I want. And then Redynamesh. Again, this is me holding Alt key with pinch brush. This is no Alt key with pinch brush, right? And again, it's decisions I'm going to make down the pipeline. So I want this to be a lot cleaner through here. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my lazy mouse. And now I'm going to click here, hold the shift key, and then click through. And now I'll hit the one key, one key, one key. And that'll make it really straight there for me. Okay, and then up here, I need to take the minute to, let's get this going as well. All right, perfect. Then I want it to come like that. Let's do a couple one keys of that. Make that a little bit more clean. Right, I definitely want, let's turn lazy mouse off now. I want to establish this inner portion in here a little bit better. Just so I can see the plane shifts that I might want to start embracing through here. And specifically in this chest plate. So it's going to come through here. And keep coming up through there. Okay, right, so now we definitely have something that is starting to look like a hard surface chest plate. So I can continue this process of using like more dense mesh and topology, right, that we have now. Or this is where then I can make a decision, and kind of what I decided on my chest plate is let's now clean up and get some clean topology, right? So this is cleaner topology for me. So now I want to do that. So for me, please excuse me. For me, the new Retopo brush makes the most sense in this workflow now. Okay. So here I'm going to move over so I have access to this. There we go. So I'm going to use the new Retopo brush. And this is going to become now, I'm going to click. It's going to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to edit the current topology? Or do you want to make a new? I want to make a new. So it's asking, you want to create a new for yes or new convert to? So I'm going to say yes. And now this is what we have. So I'm going to say, we need, I would say it's really important, probably have a point there, point there. I'm going to do a point there, and then a point there, and a point there. Spacebar will create the topology that we want. And then so now I have this as a starting point. Okay, and then now I can hold the Alt key and now refine this a little bit more to follow the line of the design that I started putting together here for this. And I like to try and stay as low as I can, wherever I can for this. That's interesting. Looks like this particular model is interesting. Let's go with a smaller draw size. Oops. Let's go with a really small draw size there so it's welded. Okay, and then I'm going to delete that. I don't want that edge loop. Now I want to, let's say, do I need, probably I need one here and then one here, right? So then this is the process. I'm taking a look around. Does that capture the model? And then now, oh, let me turn symmetry on. So we're getting it on both sides, right? Coming across, come across. Now, this is the only thing you got to make decisions, because now we're living in the world of topology life, right? And what do we want this topology to look like? And so here's a face, and then now see I've got a triangle problem here, which I really don't want in here. Let's go with a smaller, larger draw size, even a larger. Make the triangle. Probably want to get rid of that triangle, but you get the point. This is kind of what I would do, and it's kind of how I made, whoops, that other piece, right? I just started really rough, and then using this brush to kind of finish off and make clean topology. And I don't have to be concerned about thickness, actually, if I don't want to be concerned about thickness, because there are other things I can take advantage of for my thickness inside of ZBrush. Okay, I'm going to say there, that's good enough. Right, so now looking at this, if we look, that is this piece. So I'm going to switch to ZModeler now, and I'm just going to say, okay, I'm just going to bridge across from here to here now, just make that easy. Let's actually insert a single edge loop. I don't want it creased in the middle. All right, and then so I have this. I probably want to, like I said, probably want to get rid of this triangle. So I'd want to figure out what's going to be the easiest way for me to do this, right? To get rid of this triangle. So now here is something else that, you know, I want to be able to work on and do and think about for this as well. Okay, so I want to clean up that topology. It might be I need to add another inserted edge loop here and then figure this stuff out, right? So you could delete the polygon here and figure out what we want this to go across and make, right? So really we want a quad there, right? If we can find a way to make a quad there. So again, I can bridge now that I'm kind of playing with this. There's that. I think then we don't need this. Delete. We don't need this edge, which of course deleting it. We're going to delete this, and then we're going to bridge from here to here now, and bridge from here to here, here to here. Right, so now it's at least quadded. And now I go, okay, this edge right here is really important for me. So I would want to crease these edges right here. So this, I want this crease, that crease, those creased. I want those creased. I want that and that creased. Okay, I want this and this creased. Then all these outer edges we're also going to crease up. So I can just do a crease complete. And now it has that, right? Because then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to turn on dynamic subdiv, up the resolution a lot more, and drop my crease level. So it kind of smooths it out. I'd say that's too low. So more like, so you see now I have this clean piece. But I can also now add thickness using dynamic, and now I'm getting thickness here, right? And I can go back and forth and kind of now start seeing, okay, looks good. That's what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the smoothing off now. I'm going to apply this, so now I actually get the topology from there. Then I go, okay, it's going to be important for me to maintain creasing. Okay, so I definitely want this to stay creased as well as that, right? Because I'm looking at this now. I'm going to be looking at it now in this way. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, I want that creased there. Definitely that creased, definitely that creased. I want a crease down there, right? And then there is established. Do I want to come across like that? No, don't like that, right? But I do want to come across here though, but not there. Like I want that to be the nice creased level. And then there is a new chess piece. And then now from this point, I sculpturally did something, use a retopo, and then now I still have things like this brush. I can do Q mesh, and now I can say, you know what? I'm going to push this through. Do I want to do something like this? And then crease this, right? And then also crease this down here and here. Like, do I want this look to it now? Right? This is now, what if I did this instead? Oops. Okay, like, do I like that in the chest plate? Or do I prefer, again, looking at this, what if I then just Q mesh this direction instead, right? And then take this edge, slide it that direction. Okay, and then now I definitely want this to be creased here. Like I want that edge creased, I want that edge creased, and I want this edge and that edge creased. So there now I've got this little notch taken out of there. And is this what I'm looking for more or less, yes or no? Right? This is the thought process of the things I'm going through when I'm creating something like this. I think crease level can now come down a little bit more. Right? Stuff like that. Right, and then there you go. There's a new chest plate with a different design. Does that make sense? Does that help? Who was asking that question earlier? Someone asked the chest plate question earlier. Where'd my mouse? Hold on. My mouse is blocked by the Cintiq. Hopefully that answers your question. The person was asking about the chest piece. Grateful Art, if you're still here. You were asking about that. Okay, so this is the processes that I can do, right? And how I could work. Right, and you think about it, there's going to be other things I can do. Like, here's just expanding upon this. Right, we'll make that a polygroup. We'll make this be a different polygroup. Right, we'll make this be a different polygroup. All right, and then let's make this be a different polygroup for now as well. There. Okay, so let's say I apply this. Now I got geometry like this. Right, so I can say, let's take this, this. This is now just only the front plates, right? And then this is where maybe something else I want to bring in, creeping in, is panel loops. Because now you see I get these beautiful cut lines also in the areas that I'm trying to emphasize to be the chest plate. Okay, so you can see that. And then so I can play with this and go a little bit thicker. Do I want like bigger panels so they really stand out even from a distance? And then there's my scribe lines. And I'm getting them exactly where I wanted edge flow to follow. And now I'm just, instead of looking like this, it's looking like I got to decide which one do I prefer. And the reason why I applied, because if I don't have dense geometry, right? If I just take this, go backwards, okay? If I take just this to geometry and then try to do panel loop on that, it's going to destroy it way too much for me. And not give me what I was trying to do, right? The minute I do this, see, it's too strong because the geometry is so low. So I needed geometry. So I knew that. So it made sense to me to, in essence, and in fact, if we want to really emphasize this, we can put the crease level back all the way up and then it'll be super, super sharp like that. Then I gotta apply it, right? In the dynamics, apply it. I'm going to delete the lowers because I know I want this polygroup. Right? This one, and this one. And then I want to inverse, so I'm only seeing those. And then now I will do that panel. So for me, it's like playing chess, right? And then now out there, there's the chess plate, right? And then I could figure this out. You know, I could say, oh, you know what, I actually don't like it, that right there. So I could say, okay, well, let's try an experiment. What if we did that as one polygroup, right? And then now, again, this one, this one, this one, and then panel loop that. Do I prefer that look? Right? I kind of prefer that look. I think that's nicer looking, for sure, for me. Right? So this is the face. So I got the cut lines, but then I got still a nice little sharpness. Kind of, you can still see it right there. Still carrying that story through, and I, you know, might prefer this, or I might prefer, you know, looking at this more and more. I might be, you know, this green piece, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, and Control W that, right? And so now there's another one in here, right? And maybe even shrink, 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 shrink some more. Control W that, and let's make this one and this one the same polygroup now. And so now our goal would be, what if I did this with panel loops, and then do I want that kind of thing going around the chest? I don't know. It's our world, though, right? It's our world to do whatever we want. Okay, and then I can expand upon this even thought process here and go, okay, I kind of like the idea maybe where I was going, and then now let's just use this, and let's think about more in context of going back to ZModeler. And then I can say, what I'd like to do is I would like to say, I want to slice across. I'm going to slice mesh. I'm going to go from here to here, right? Here to here. And then slice that across. This will not work. I'm going to mirror and weld that across. And then now this, in essence, is a new polygroup. Right, so we can fill this in. So the easier way to do this filling in would be this. Switching to point, do mask, masking points in here, right? And then I would want to be able to go from one point to another point. I'm sorry, creasing, not masking. And I'm going to do shortest path. I'm going to click that point, and that point, it creases that. Then I'm going to click that point. And that point, it creases that. And now I could just go here, polygroup, fill, and then just easily there. Saved myself time. Right? And now, do I want that, right? Is that something I want? I don't know. Maybe. Like, and maybe do I want this to be back to being the same polygroup again? Right, and then this is going to just be some little chest thing, right, in there. I don't, right? In fact, I could maybe even look at just this, turn this off, turn inner, and then it does that. Maybe that's all I want. And then now this polygroup, that, and then the side one. Now let's switch off inner, no double, and then polyloop it, right? And then boom, now I got this, and then this has got like a double. It's so much freedom, right, that we have here. And then maybe there's going to be a light there in the chest. I don't know. That's the beauty of this. This is why I'm using ZBrush to do the design and think things through. Okay? So in shrinking and growing is, obviously selections is Control and Shift. So if you're holding Control and Shift and you tap the S key, that's a shrink. Every time you tap the S key, it shrinks. You can obviously hold down there. If you tap X as an expand, it'll grow your selection out. And see, now I'm growing the selection out. Right? And then you hit Control-Shift-A, that does the entire island of topology. I use that all the time. We also have polygroup ability. So what I mean by that is, like, say I switch to something like this. Let's say we do this, and let's say I duplicate it, right? And now we have, say, something like this. I can actually select, even though the other pilled shapes aren't even visible, the polygroups are visible. And then ZBrush goes and finds the other polygroups for us and then shows all of it to us. Give me a sec. I'm getting warm in my hoodie, so give me 1 second. I'm going to turn this off. Let me take this off. Sorry. Again, so the idea here is I can select literally one polygon and I can do all, just give me only that shape. Or I can do, no, give me every piece of geometry on this subtool has the exact same polygroup. And what I'm playing with are the shortcuts and visibility. I'm playing with this, grow, shrink, grow all, and now there's grow to polygroups. Right, so even if we didn't do this, okay, accidentally. Even if we did, something keeps pressing. I don't know why this is happening. There's something stuck in my keyboard. Okay. Weird. I might have to restart. Why is this doing this? Okay, weird. So what I mean by that is if we, I don't know why the document keeps changing. Let's go ZModeler and say, okay, that's a polygroup. Then I also put that polygroup up here. Oh, well, might help if I didn't have it. Keep the same polygroup. All right, so these are the same polygroups, right? So when you're doing this, okay, it's going to find everything that makes up it, but it's also finding that polygroup by itself, right? So even in this scenario, they're not separate shells. So if I did, like, say this, and let's say now we hide this section, now we only have this. If I do, say, give me everything now, it gives me those two polygroups that are selected, right? So you can see there's some green in there and blue in there. So wherever other places have that, I can Control-Shift-Q for it too. Okay, and that's this. This is what I'm calling right there. That's what I'm calling. Extremely useful for sure. 100%. I use it all the time. All right, there you go. There was the chest plate. How I started doing that. Okay, and the process for me in doing all that. Okay, we'll go back to my guy here, so we can start continuing to figure out moving along into the arm. Okay, this piece. Let me refine this a little bit more. So we'll go into the pinch. So just when I go to make this really clean, I do have an understanding of what I want this piece to start looking like. And again, I think here I want it to be straight, more or less straight there. Yeah, more straight like that. And then we'll polish this out so it's more flat. We'll go a little bit bigger. Okay, and then I want to refine now this portion, just making sure I got what I want there. Right, because I want to see everything working together. So you think right there, that's what I don't want. I don't want that happening. And that is happening from this piece. Right? So I think I need to get rid of that piece. I definitely don't want that happening in the back. Not a fan of that. All right, so I am going to, let's play with that piece, because that piece keeps coming up to me as an issue that I don't like. So I'm going to delete the other side. That way I can just use the brushes I want to use. I don't have to worry about the other side and go, okay, I want to go, we don't want symmetry on. Like I wanted to end there. Okay. I need, looking at it, that back portion is one of my problems. Okay. So what I think I want to start really looking at is what I really care about is this part right now. This is the only portion I care about realistically. Okay. So I'm going to think about this in a different way. let's delete hidden. All right, I'm going to say, what do we got here? Okay, let's turn off dynamic. And let's make this its own polygroup for now. So polygroup, I'm going to do flat island. So the way that flat portion is gone, and I don't need that. Delete hidden. Okay, and now this is the back. Okay, so I don't need, all right, I only need the back portion to be certain, so I'm going to slice now. All right, I'm going to come across, then I'll go up. So that'll create a new polygroup that can help me delete that portion. All right, so I'm going to say now delete hidden that. And now I have, yeah, this. Okay, one thing I am seeing here that's interesting. I want to move this away, actually, from, let's see, where is this located here? Okay, let's rename this inner shoulder plate. Okay. Oh, thank you, Flash Nation. That's obviously kind of you. I'm glad you're taking something away from this for sure. Okay. I'm going to look at this and really go, okay. Control W. I don't want any of these pieces to be around. I'm going to say modify geometry. Let's delete hidden. Okay, now I want this to be really straight across. I also want it to be very straight across here. Okay, I want a nice, we'll say here. Okay, that looks good. That looks good there, there, and there. And then now, let's make these be the same. Let's make these be the same polygroup. So now we got something like that, and there. We got something like that, and there. Okay, not bad. Okay, and right now this is being affected by the Boolean. Let's have it not be affected by the Booleans. Let's have it sit. So then there's a plate that's there. I think this is the route I want to go. Excuse me. Okay, and then now, let's clean this up real quick. So using the polygrouping, let's see what we get. Make it easy on me. Let's use some Z remeshing. Let's use a keep groups, and then let's remesh it. Okay. All right. So we need, this topology is brutal here, so let's get rid of that topology. Let's just get rid of it, because those stretched triangles, no good. And so we want to delete that. And then now let's remesh it. There we go. Now we're getting nice, clean, clean, clean topology. And now I kind of refine this. I don't even think, for me, I don't even want the geometry to be this dense. Okay? So I'm going to clean this up a little bit for me. In essence, because there's nothing for me to extrude something. Let's delete hidden. I want that. I don't really right now need all these edges. Like I don't need this to refine that shape. Okay. The corner here, I'm going to have to figure this out a little bit per se, right? I'm going to have to think about that, cleaning that up. But in the meantime, I definitely don't need this many spans. I could keep using Z-remesher and keep lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering. I think there's something for me doing stuff on my hand, because then I have 100% control. So I'm deleting, right, every other edge loop in here, which this is a feature I'd love to get, where we can just click once and it automatically would do what I'm doing for me. Right? I still think that's too much, too many. It's not horrible. I don't need this to make a triangle area up here. Okay, so this is where, let me look at this again. Okay, and in the back, I'm going to have the same thing. I think if we do that, all right, and now if I get rid of that, get rid of, oops, that, we'll have that triangle piece there, which I think we'll take another approach for that. Okay, we really got to figure this out. Hold on, my one dog really wants to come in with for us. Yes, come in. She's at the door, begging to come in. She wants to be a part of the stream. Right? Again, this is probably me. I probably don't even need to do what I'm doing. I'm just going a little too, being too crazy in my process here. I find the more topology that I have, then obviously I'm losing divisions, right? So let's look at this, what we got. Let's really take a good hard look at what we got here. And I am going to smooth it so we can see what it looks like smooth, dynamically, and I definitely want some thickness to this. And I actually want it to go in both directions, so I'm going to keep the offset at 0. And now this is what we have. Okay, so I'm actually okay with where we're at here, because I can see that being, that's where the shift plane will be, and then it'll be there. Okay, so let's now apply this. Let's redynamic it, turn off the thickness, put our smoothing back on. Okay, and then now we're going to be creasing the outer edges in here. Drop our crease level a little bit so it's a smoother piece. Okay, so now do I want it to do that? I think what I want to do is I'm going to look at this and say, let's crease this as well. So crease that edge. I want this up here. Okay, that's creased. Okay, good. That's what I want. I want that piece up there to be creased. Okay, that looks pretty good. Back in the back now. Let's crease this up. Crease that up. All right, and then this would be the reason why maybe I want to add another edge loop, because is that sharp enough creasing? I'd say yes. And what I want to do is I think I want to take this. Let's Q-mesh polygroup all. And do I want to now pull this out even more? So it's kind of like a shield blocking the whole system. And I got to decide, I think that's too far. So I'm going to decide this way now. I'm going to use this because I think this should be a line that I'm going to establish also. Right? I think it should probably come out about that far and no further than that. And it's kind of like a bottom shield that gives me now this look from below. And I think this now, let's have this fit a little bit more. So I'm going to move my infinite depth. Let's go the big draw size, and I'm just going to push even this little portion in a little bit more. Let's look at from the back. Yeah, just enough, not a lot. It can now come out and meet this plate, because I still want to have that feeling as if there's like some kind of rib cage thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then now this. Let's go ahead and mirror and weld it over. Modify topology, mirror and weld it over. Let's turn local off, mirror and weld it over. So now it's on both sides. Yeah, I polygroup by normals a lot, often. And the crease polygroup, 100%. That crease PG or is the crease Paul Gaboury? That's one of the features I requested years ago. I'm like, hey, let's crease based upon polygroups. It was such a life-changing one for us. Sorry about my constant muting. I've been sick, so I don't want to sneeze with you guys there. Yes, this is being recorded, and it will be available. Obviously, when I'm done, it'll instantly be available. But I'm not gonna lie. Looking at this, I kind of want to play with this plate a little bit more. I don't want it to be just this, right? And then this is why I would go with lower topology, because now I can do a little bit more here with this. And like, do I want to? Let's make sure symmetry's on. Let's do ZModeler. As a little quick test for me, what if I made these be their own polygroup in here? I just want to see something. I want to test something out for me. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's quick save this for now. Okay, and then what if I made it look like there's another part to this plate, and then like I said, crease by PG. Then I want to crease by even angle, and then I need that crease there. Crease, crease, creased. Like, how does this look? Right, I really am a fan of layering things. Like, do I like this? I kind of like that there. I don't like it going all the way up, though. But if I was going all the way up, I'd want it to follow what I already have, right? You know what I'm going to do also? I'm going to play with these faces. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And oh, okay. Yeah, those. Then I'm gonna go, let's transpose, let's ZModeler. Let's switch to transpose and tap. Okay, and I want these to kind of live more on an angle like this. Let's see what's going to be the best way for me to do this. Actually, I think what the best way for me to do this, what I really want to do is, looking at this again now, let's get rid of the thickness for now, right now. And let's actually delete this polygroup completely. And also let's delete hidden. And let's delete this, delete this, delete this. Okay, and now I don't want also that edge, that edge, that edge. Right now I don't want that edge. Right now I don't want that edge. I don't want that edge. All right, and then we could either extrude an edge, just a single. So it does that, but I would probably want it to be planar. And let's think, I don't like how that's coming out, so I'm going to bridge instead. Bridge edge to edge, edge to edge. All right. Okay, and then now, like I want that really defined. Yeah, that's a lot better. I'm preferring that for sure. And then now, if I insert, it should, yes, give me. Okay. something like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's now dynamically, let's add some vertexes. No smoothing. Let's again create some thickness to what we're trying to do. Okay, so we've got some thickness in there. You know what? What if we just use QMesh instead? I want to see what QMesh. We'll lose our polygroups, but same result. So I'd rather keep my polygrouping. Okay, let's apply that. And then now let's take this, because I want it equally. And then now we'll QMesh, polygroup all. And that way this, see, it lines up better. And so I think I'm okay with what we're doing here, but I need the edge loop to be closer to the edge. Oops. Alright, so we want this blue, that blue, that blue, and then we'll QMesh this out. Let's turn off no attraction. It's still attracting. Interesting. Wait, what do I have selected? Okay. Let's try and extrude. Oh, wait, I haven't applied. Let me apply first. So we get this, and then now let me QMesh this out. No, it's still doing it. This is why it's doing it. I don't want this. I just want this. Oh, I didn't get everything. Okay, that's fine. I want all that to be blue as well. And then now I want that. Yeah. And then that's the plate. Let's throw some smoothness on. Let's go ahead and crease by PG first. Okay, and I want this here to be creased, partial. That, I want that creased. I also want this creased, which means I want that creased. These corners creased. I want that creased, that creased. Something like that. And then I want that creased. Okay. At least that is where I want it. And then now I want this creased. Just one edge, one edge, one edge, one edge. And then crease that off. I don't want these creased. Got a little carried away with my creasing. Okay, so let's see what we got right now. Yeah, that makes more sense to me there. This definitely needs to be creased here. Something like that. Okay, spent a lot of time on this. Okay, and then now let's go to a move brush, and I don't want, I'm not going to have this stick out further than that plate. I want it to just go right there. And then let me polish this back more. So I can visually see what that plate's going to look like from all angles now. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Hey, there we go. All right. And then that's what I want. So now I'm starting to build out this shoulder piece and get what I want to get for the shoulder piece. And move forward, right, with this. Okay. Right, so I'm pretty now feeling good at the movement for the shoulder and some of these plates, how they're going to collide with everything. It's making sense for me. Now I'm just starting to look at everything else. Okay, this piece is that. Okay, yeah, that's that. So I definitely don't want it popping through or anything like that. Right, so this is part of the chest. All right, and then this needs to be perfectly straight across. Let's make this like straight right across. Very matter of fact on purpose, right? All right, that's good there. And then this is okay. That's giving me into there. I'm right with that. I'll probably, like, I definitely see something else being added in here. Let's go for this. Let's start making all this, making sure this is all going to work right for me. Okay, because the design is there. Now I'm just trying to make some of these design pieces fit better together a little bit for me. There's just some things that are bothering me, like that's bothering me a little bit. This is bothering me a little bit. So I need to really think about this through a little bit more. So let's switch to, whoops, a different view. Let's go to view 2. And only have this on right now for view 2. And then let's switch to that retopo brush. All right. I'm going to want symmetry on. Let's, for the matter of fact, let's make sure this is symmetrical. We'll mirror and weld this. It is symmetrical. All right, we're going to click, tell it yes. And now in this view, I need to also have this on. Okay, we're symmetrical. So 100%, I want to point there. I want to point there. And then I'm just going to come across here and to here. Right? Then I'm going to need to make a big enough draw size so that the draw size can actually see the whole polygon there. Okay. Then I want it to come across. It's interesting that this model's giving me that issue. I'm going to have to see what is causing that. Huh. Well, at least I got a model that's causing this issue. We're going to have to fix that. I need to even there. Right. And the mod, whoops, I'm going to use the modeler for this part because I'm going to stitch midpoint, select that point, select that point, select that point, select that point, and then it's a midpoint, and I don't need it, so I'm going to delete it because I want that instead. All right, and then we want to come, let's go back to the retopo brush. And then I want to come straight across like that. Then come straight across again. Let's turn symmetry on. Straight across like that. Let's mirror weld this over. And then let's, we'll clip it to put them all aligned. And then now, let's go back to V1. Wait, did I not do that in V1? Oh, I messed up. I ruined my V1 now. I thought I was in V2. Oh man. The sickness I have is just so much fun dealing with. Don't need this. Cancel. Don't need that on. Don't need that on. This is an early thought for the shoulder. Don't need that on. Don't need that one on. Early thought. Okay. Yes. Yes. Don't need this. Let's just delete this. I don't even need this anymore. Okay, and then the legs. Turn those on. There we go. Back. Back to a V1. All right. So let's get back down to that one subtool that I was creating, which is, where are you? There, this one. Okay. Do I have, here, let's dynamically turn on. And once again, use our thickness. Let's just give it a little bit more. A little bit more of that. And then let's take this. It's got to move way further down and then further out. Okay. And now this, let's just push this in so it's not in the way anymore. Because now I have the cleaner version of this. Now this is what I want to see. How is this going to work? Collide with everything else. Okay, it's going through the neck. Good enough. Let's use some move infinite. Let's shore this up a little bit more. Something more like that. I'm going to maybe think about this more. Give it a little bit more of a plane shift in there. Okay, and now this piece here is ready. Okay. Get to the job! Then I'm going to apply this. Put it back on. We're not going to have any thickness. We're going to have some smoothness, and then we're going to crease it and drop that crease level. So then the result is this. In fact, I'm just going to do a crease all. So this is then what we have now is that piece, which is very now defined. Okay, so now I want to use this piece to do a little bit more here, right? I'm thinking, all right, I think we're going to need more topology this way, right? So I'm thinking, brush Z modeler. What if we did, there's that, and then now I need that. Okay, Then I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this. Let's move everything here so it's all very flat. Whoops. Use the clipping. Then that's very flat. All right. Clip across here. We'll make that flat. Let's get rid of this so we can collapse. These edges. Oops. Clean it up because, all right, there we go. And then now, let's move it forward a little bit. And I actually like, oops, I actually like this idea of this being also down a lot more. Okay, I like that repeat. We'll keep that, and then we'll use, all right, now let's crease all just to have it all creased. I'm going to put an edge loop here. I want that, because then this, let's crease all, let's do something like this so it's got like this little lip right there. Okay, and let's make that little lip have, let's do an inset now. Polygroup all. Let's do an inset. Something more like that. And then let's do a Q mesh, polygroup all. Let's bring this down into here. Okay. Right. And now we have this little pocket thing. Looks like, again, it's living in there. But I think I'd like to play more with these faces as well. For sure. I'm thinking, what if we, so where I might switch it back to sculpting. It just will be faster probably than trying to do it with clean topology. I definitely think I need a bevel. Okay, so now these triangles are not going to be my friend. That's for sure. This is why I don't like sometimes to get into low topology. You're sitting here more like you're figuring out a mathematical equation, I feel like sometimes, than anything. Okay? Just not a fan of it. Stitch, endpoint. Let's get rid of the triangles here. Those are gone. And now we have this, but we don't need these anymore now. That's all we need, and then I can just bridge across from there to there. There. Okay, and now we have that. What I think I want to play with a little bit is, what if I Q mesh just push these in. Do a creasing so it's more like that. Okay, so what's in the way now is this main mesh. This is in my way. This is in my way. So let's just get it out of the way. Although let me make sure I'm not destroying my back. I am destroying the back. So I gotta be mindful of that. So what I need to do is something more like that. There we go. That way I can see what am I deciding to do here. Now that I've done this, I don't like this at all. What's happening in here? I like it out there, but I'm going to mass partial. No, let's see, slide. Yeah, it's still moving that. Okay, so we need to be a little more creative here, because I don't like how this looks like. I want this to change a little bit more. I want this to be a little bit more rounded. So I need to change those up. Let's make it a little bit more rounded in there. Okay. Not sure if I like that. Let's get back to that here. Because it doesn't really matter much. I don't like this now. I don't like how much space is in there, how much gaps in there. The rest of it is working all right for me. I definitely want this to have a bevel here and the same bevel there. Crease all. What might be cool is, let me try this. What if I did something like this, and then we do something like this, we'll crease all so it's all, okay, no I don't. Let's really make sure. So let's mask this. I'm going to use the slicing curve with a mask so I can make perfectly straight line there, perfectly straight line there. Okay. And I would say, it looks like this. This is gonna bother me. Which, in the grand scheme of things, this is ridiculous. What I'm spending my time on. No one's gonna see this. Like, this is not necessary. What I'm doing right now, it's really not. Insert, and then Q-mesh this out of existence. How does that look? Do I even see it? I do see it, but would it be better? Okay, Q-mesh it out, and then Q-mesh. And let's see if I crease this, crease this. You get more of like a rounding result. This is my problem, is This, okay. Ah, decisions that I want to make here. Maybe I just... no, I'd want another edge loop. I'd want another edge loop for sure. And then let's go with inside, inside, something like that. And then now these here are what get moved. And create some little notch element like that. And now this is what we have. And now we have this. Okay, so that notch actually starting to make sense for the one neck piece. Maybe we'll put that notch there for that. And so now we will have to do the thing that I am being silly about, which is this. Where I want this, look at it locally, and let's straighten this out so that those are straight. Okay, and then it is going all the way to there, right? So that means I need another edge loop. Probably right about, let's see, probably right about there, maybe. Let's see. Okay, so it comes way up. Okay, so this can go. So we need, this head is in the way. There. I want this. Because what I want to do is now mask the whole thing off, and I'm going to slice right in front of that. See what? Yeah, that's what I'm concerned of. Okay. Alright, so I need to insert an edge that's probably there. Okay, and then I want these to live in the same space. I want them to straighten out like this. And then we'll put it there. Okay. And then we need something from the back. And then we need this. There's that. Right. And now if I push this in, that gives me that notch for the neck, which I want. And then now I want these two edges to slide this direction. And we can do a crease all just to see if I am digging that. Okay, yes. Definitely liking that. Pretty good. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. Let's see what it looks like if I did this. And now if I took... Let's take another look at this. Oh, God. I don't know if I want to do the inset now. And what if I Q-mesh this, single poly this up, crease all, and now you got another layered effect here. What would it look like if I just kept going with this? Right, so in essence I go to this one, then I go to this one, then I go to this one, and now these two. What would this look like? And I do a crease all. Okay, I'm thinking it's an interesting thought here. I'd love it to continue. So I think it's going to be better to stop trying to do it all in the same topology, which is tough for us to do. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. Hold on, catching up with some questions. Greetings from Russia. Can I weld vertexes in ZBrush if I got few iterations of subdivisions? No, if you have subdivisions, well, you could weld. That's me, sorry. Is surface noise preview in the main viewport not working for me? I don't know. I can try. Let's try. Let me first... Sorry, I'm having a sneezing episode. Thank you for your bless you, Rodolfo's. I don't know. I definitely want to do some more with this. Stinks being sick. But what I want to do really is that idea that we had going there. Oh boy. Sorry, it's just, no, I can't stop it. Let's replace this. Let me look at this cube. Alright. Let's bring this in now. A lot smaller. Let's bring this in here. Yeah, sorry, I'm just sick, so I can't control right now what's happening. Let's now, just to make this easier for me, I'm going to separate this so I can just work on this. What I saw that I kind of liked was this kind of layering. Again, I'm just a fan of this stuff. And so I like to sometimes just use another subtool. Instead of trying to reinvent everything, put everything in one mesh. Why? Obviously the reasons for it, depending on what you do for a living, would be a reason. But even welding is so much easier to do than unwelding, right? So I'm going to say I want to go right about there. And I probably want to live right about there. Now let's Q-mesh this out. Increase all this right now. Okay. And what I want to do now is bring this more forward. Like this. And then now this. Bring it more in. Something like this. And then now let's play with this angle. Keep that angle going right here. Okay. And then now, which would be probably better, let's insert an edge here. Now let's get rid of, let's see what's going to be the best for me. Yeah, we'll do a hole. Let's Q-mesh this, Q-mesh this. Let's get rid of this. Let's delete. Let's delete face. Let's take these and push them more way further this way. And then now let's take this, close, and I'm going to go with round corner. Let's see how that looks. Oops. Wait, not close, sorry, bridge. Why am I going to bridge? 2 holes, round corner. Let's go arc and align. Let's see what that one's looking like. Okay, so these are still too close to each other for what I want to do, so let's do this instead. Something like this, but now let's delete this, delete this. Now let's keep that one. Let's delete this one and this one. And let's not have this be creased. And then now let's move these further down this way. Let's move this furthermore, like something a little bit nicer like that. Right? And then now we're getting that roundness. And then now, there, that's inside him. Okay. All right. Okay, that's starting to work for me now, inside. Okay. Now let me save this out. I haven't done a save in a while. My own save. And then we'll take the two questions that came up. Okay. And so the questions that came up is okay. So for the one question, as far as the Blender to ZBrush go, Z, that's not us. That's someone in the the Blender community has to do that. They would have to go update that. We didn't write any of that code. That's on them. They'd have to go write that to make it work. Format after you updated it, preview is just not in the main viewport. Okay, so you're saying the main viewport, it doesn't matter what it is. So like if I just load a sphere, right, and then I go to surface noise, then are you on Windows or are you on Mac? Would be my question. Because obviously there it's working for me. So right. So are you on Windows or Mac? Make sure whatever mesh you have also doesn't have masking, because obviously if something's completely masked off and maybe you have your mask hidden, double check that. Make sure you don't have a mask on the mesh. But it is working for me. And let's see, even if I render. Okay, that's not working. Switch to this. Okay, do I have shadows off here? I do. Shadows are off. Okay. Surface noise. Alright, that's something that I'd want to, but it might be I just need... Yeah, that's something I'll need to look into. I will tell you this, the rendering part's not working. I'd have to see if there's something else I have turned on, though, in the project. Making sure it's not a project issue. Or a subdivision issue. But otherwise... it's showing me a preview. Okay, so investigate. Are you on Windows, though? Because I'm on a Mac. Okay, I'm on a Mac, too. So it is working for me. So I would double check, double investigate. Make sure the model you're on isn't an issue, right? As well. Okay, and then there was another question. Okay, welding vertexes, right, for ZBrush. Yeah, so let's take something like this. Let's make this a poly mesh. All right, and let's delete some polygons so we don't have them. All right, boom, 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 boom. All right, so welding, right? So you can obviously stitch and do midpoints. So when you do boom, boom, it's doing that. But what you're asking in particular is if you have, do you have dynamic on or do you have regular sub? I'm going to assume you have regular subdivision levels on. Okay, so anything that changes topology, it's not going to work with ZModeler as far as stitching the points with subdivisions. It has to not have subdivision levels on it, if that's what your question was. So you can weld with ZModeler, but because it's making and changing the topology, we can't do it when it has actual subdivisions. All right, because it's got to factor this in, and it's trying to maintain subdivision levels throughout. And so this is completely changing the topology. Like, you can't change the topology drastic when you have subdivision levels because it's not going to work with going up and down levels. So that's why you would have to delete your subdivision levels and then you could weld. Then be fine. But no other, like, there's obviously you could play with weld points down here, right? But then have to be close enough, and I'm pretty sure if I remember right, we did not write it to also work with subdivisions. It's only going to work with, right? So that if I start pulling these together, right, and go up the distance, then nothing's going to happen. And it's telling you it's because it's got subdivision levels. So no, there is no way. If that's what I think that's what you're asking, can I do any welding with subdivision levels? The answer is no. Let me look at the question again. Can I weld vertex in ZBrush if I got few iterations of subdivisions? Okay, yeah, so that was what the question is. So the answer is no, you can't do that. You'd have to get rid of the subdivisions. Rodolfo, you're checking obviously the surface noise on the window side. Yeah, it's working for me, but the rendering part's not working. So, but I gotta double check and make sure I didn't load a project that has a bunch of settings changed. I could probably load a new project. This looks funny without his head. He looks funny. He looks very funny without his head. Okay. I'll save this out right now. Okay, so let me see if I load a new project. Okay, new project. Throw some surface on this. There's some noise. Let's make it more noisy. Let's get a little bit more strength. Okay, that is previewing. Yeah, it's not rendering the noise out though as a displacement. So that's broken. We'll have to look into that. Yeah, it looks like that's not working. Okay. Which I don't know how many people even know that and how many people even use that, so it's not a huge issue, but we definitely want to get that fixed for sure. Let's even do like this way. Yeah. Okay, that's something that we can look into. All right, that's good to know. Well, you discovered something else that I found, so I can get that in and see if we can get that fixed. Okay, so it's working for you. Okay, and the render's not working for you either. Yeah, I'll have to make a ticket and see if we can take a look at it, why the rendering is not working right. What it should do, for people that don't know, surface noise right now, when I turn it on, it's more of like a bump map viewing, right? So it's just showing me the noise, but it's not doing anything to the surface yet, right? It's just giving me a preview. However, when you do a BPR render, it should then apply the noise more of its displacement. So in essence, the silhouette of the sphere should not stay a perfect sphere. It should take on the noise. So that's what's not working. So that's what we did when you would render with BPR. And you know what it is? I think it's live Boolean. Hold on, let me see. Maybe I have live Boolean on. Let me just double check and make sure it's not a live Boolean thing. Nope, still not working. All right. The only other thing I can do is initializing ZBrush. Okay, and then now starting from scratch. Noise. Okay. Yeah, it's not working. That's a no. Okay, gotta get that fixed. Okay, not working on your side either. All right, we gotta make a bug report for that. All right, Hicks, what is your last thing? Because I'm unfortunately I gotta get going here a little bit. What's the thing that's been bothering you? You got me and Rodolfo in here right now. You got two ZBrushies from the company in here. What's the element that's bothering you? Obviously, I have a delay waiting for when you go. Ugh. My nose is so stuffy. All right, so I'll make a ticket for that for sure. So, yeah. I have to get this guy done because I'm going to be using him for something else. So I really got to work on him this week. Curves are not snapping if you have multiple subtools, is what you're saying. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with, say, Mr. Demo Soldier. Okay, and let's say I'm going to go with the vest. We're going to just delete the subdivision levels because I'll use insert mesh brushes so I can really see what this is doing. So brush, insert, let's grab the IMM curve. Let's take something, this will be good enough. Okay, and then so when I draw this out, okay, you want it to be snapping. So when I pull, this is doing the snapping to this, right? So if I'm drawing out, it's snapping to that. So what you're asking about is snapping to other subtools when you draw the curve out like this, and then allow it to snap, right? So for example, brush, curve, where are you? Curve tube snap, where it's snapping, and then you want it to continue on and snapping like this, right? So I'd have to remember, did we even allow that actually? Let me look at what my picker is. My depth is continuous. Continuous. I've got dots selected. Honestly, I'm trying to remember if we even allowed that ever. Honestly, I can't even remember now if we allowed that. Because you're drawing it on the selected subtool. So I'd have to double check if we honestly, I'm drawing a blank now if we ever did allow it. Let me see, maybe it needs both bends on now. Because obviously the initial snap looks like it's working, but the editing one is not working, it looking like. Here, let's be really more matter of fact on this. Let's take a sphere, make a sphere. Let's duplicate it. Let's put this sphere up here. Let's go to this one and now draw across. Okay, so the initial it's the editing is what you're saying. This editing, it's going through the surface. Okay, I'll have to look into that too. I'm trying to remember when we edit it. Let's see, snap is on, curve mode, both bends are on. So I need to see that. The initial drawing does do it, but I can't remember now if we allowed it when we edit it. You're saying 2022 allows this? Hold on, let's do the same scenario in 2022. Hold on. Let me get to 2022. Oh, God. So many things open. Hold on, I'm going to launch 2022. Let me launch 2022 and see. It might be a Mac issue too, though, as well. All right, 2022 is launched. Let me duplicate it, put it kind of up here. Okay, so here's 2022. Let's take the same brush, brush curve tube snap. Okay, draw it out. And then now I want to edit it. Yeah, see, it's not working for me in 2022. It's still going inside this subtool. Let's look at the settings. Just put both bends on, boom, boom, boom. It's got this. It's our picker is continuous. Whoops. For the depth, orientation, continuous, continuous, continuous. This is the Pixelogic version I'm in too. And you see it does not snap to the other subtool. Now for me, can you double check? Because like I said, I don't remember. I know the initial because it's drawn out and sees it, but when you edit it, then it's only looking at the subtool. That's it. Because even the undo history now will look at it, and you can make it snap to something else now. Like you can make it snap to a different mesh. So what I mean by that is if we undo, let's delete this. Okay, and we do this, and then I say let's duplicate this, and then let's make a smaller version of this. So you have this. Okay, I'm going to store this. If I even come back to this sphere, which is the larger sphere, and I switch to this brush, it's actually snapping to the inside sphere. That's why I don't see it, because it's using the undo history to snap to the surface down underneath. That's what it's doing. Right, so if I do this, see it works. But if I turn it off, like if I looking at this, right, it's actually, if we do this, all right, and then you can see these two parts and these parts, and then turn this off, and you can see, look, see they're snapping to the smaller sphere. Like, I don't remember snap like working when you move it around, but I could be wrong. I don't know, it's been a while. Yeah, but maybe you're also going way back to the beginning years of the curve brush, and it's been so many updates that we've lost a couple things that it used to do in order to embrace some of its other new capabilities. So I'm wondering maybe along the way this even got. Hold on. I'll have to look because it's not. This is the Pixelogic version that I'm in too, so it doesn't do it. What causes when you use an IMM curve that when you move the front, it moves the whole thing? When you're doing IMM curves, here, let's get rid of. Okay, let's just go back to this. So when you're doing this, just turn symmetry off, and when you move the front, it causes the whole thing. Those are controls. So in the stroke palette, there's these bend options, first of all. Okay? And so it's saying they're both can be on. If they're both on, that means I can grab it, and then the front and the beginning of the curve can bend based upon where I click on the curve. So if I turn one of these off, so the bends start, if I start pulling on this, right, only a certain portion of it can be bent. So if I come down here, so you see how I'm moving around? I'm limiting its bend in essence. Okay? So this is only allowing from where I click to the start of the curve to work. So here we'll do something more instead of a sphere. Let's do this. Okay, so now as I'm moving things around, right, this is just allowing things to happen. But if I want the whole thing to bend, and see the whole thing can bend. But if I want to limit it, I can limit it to just from where I clicked. And you see, as I'm moving around, you see that this little hook isn't changing. Only from where I click to here is changing because this is the start of the curve. So it's not allowed to bend because the only thing I'm doing is bend end. If you have both on, it allows for both. Okay, so if you turn these off, then it's just going to act like one big curve. But what you're probably wanting is if I do this, I would want probably both bends on, but you probably want to turn these on as well. You probably want to turn the locks on so that when I do adjust this, you can see it's still snapping to the surface, but it's not going to pull it off the surface. Right? And so I can tweak this and see it will not turn this on and off, on and off. Somebody's at my door. Okay? So that's probably what you're looking for, is you probably want to turn the locks on and off. And as far as posing any cares with subdivision levels, you have to use the Transpose Master. That's going to be the best thing to do. That's what it was built for. So when you're posing, you want to use this. So you would hit T-pose. It drops everything to the lowest subdivision level. Then you can go pose. And then when you're done posing, you hit the T-pose, the sub-T. And it'll take everything and apply it to all the subtools. So posing with subdivision levels, that's what you're going to want to do. Yeah, there is a known issue with saving presets on the Windows side with the most recent version of ZBrush, 2026.1.1. We're looking into that. Your presets are not saving. Yes. On Windows side only, it looks like so far. We just dove and found that bug this week, actually. So we are working on fixing that and seeing what's causing that to get that fixed. So unfortunately, right now in the newest version, yes, your presets are not being saved out. If you went back down to probably 2026, it'll work. We're looking to see if it's maybe the folder restructuring that's causing the problem or what it might be. But on the Mac side, it is working. You're not doing anything wrong. You can take the presets from a previous version and put it in the new version. Like, as you have presets in an older version of the ZBrush, you could just copy those and put it in the new version. Would be a way to work around for you. Okay. I unfortunately got to get going, everybody. I appreciate you even taking any time to hang out with me, and hopefully I answered some questions for you, and you took a little something away from the hard surface piece I was doing. I am slated to stream again next Friday, so I'll be back again next Friday, same time. I'll probably continue working on that model unless I want to passionately work on something else. We'll see. But thank you. And then when you guys do run into any kind of issues in ZBrush, I definitely would not wait for a stream. Immediately send it to support so we can dive in and take a look at this. Right? Because if, like, for example, you're bringing up the Z modeler, we're going to assume that it's working unless one of us actually stumbles upon that issue or you guys stumble upon that issue. But as long as you're communicating with us, then we can dive in and find out what is causing the problem. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. This was another Did You Know That with Paul.